turn her gaze with his heavy eyes struggling to stay open. She spoke gently with excitement gleaming on her face. "Look at him. Head full of hair, matted black, just like yours. Skin of light wood brown to match, perhaps a shade lighter. You're already your father's son." Character card, Isiric S. Cirrus. Bloodheart Dynasty, Blood Race, Chimera Appearance, Black, Dominican Age 0 Class, Faithless Priest, Affinity, Psionic, Electricity, Darkness, Earth and Water. Bloodline, Eye of Supremacy. Mutation, Cloud Lord. Marcellus was watching the trees pass by while leaning on the window, toying with the end of his thick mustache and rubbing it down to his soul patch. A sign of his deep thoughts and worry. For a moment all that he was pondering faded away as he accepted the welcome distraction from all that was happening. Turning his gaze away from the window, he smiled at the interaction beside him, while the moonlight illuminates his wife and child. The sight adds to fill his voice with a deep, warm glee. Character card, Marcellus S. Solacer. Bloodheart, Dynasty, Blood Race, Human. Appearance, Black Italian height, 5'9" age, 30 class, Vanguard rank, chosen title, Honeybear Barber. Bloodline, Body Supremacy, Bending, Nature Affinity, Earth, Fire and Water. I'm surprised even this much resembles me, given the 5 years of long pregnancy, and at how you managed to postpone it for so long. Marcellus let out a chuckle that was matched by Esmeralda's own. Marcellus brushed his fingers gently through their son's hair, revealing strands of emerald scattered amongst the black. The colour resembles Esmeralda's own long emerald hair that flows like a river with slight curls from the top down to the middle of her back, grinning through her hushed excitement. Character card, Esmeralda S. Solanum, Bloodheart Dynasty, Blood Race, Chimera. Appearance, French Dominican height, 5'7", age 30. Class, Barbarian, Assassin rank, chosen. Title, Ruby Beast of the Crimson Garden. Bloodline, Illusionary Eye. Bending, Beast, Veil and Clouds. Affinity, Air and Psionic. It brought us much-needed time, more time than expected. It was worth every moment, and in more ways than one. He felt my will and surpassed it with one far greater. A will that burns as bright as Cirrus itself. Merelda, my love, sharing adoring eyes such as yours, there's not a doubt he will be a force to be reckoned with. Esmeralda's smile couldn't help but to grow a little grander with the feeling of pride. The joy of some shared resemblance caused her eyes to narrow with a possessive obsession. Sharing a moment of silence as they both gaze upon their child, his emerald eyes that were slightly clouded white stared at his parents with a newfound fascination. Looking up into his mother's own slightly clouded emerald eyes, their irises were identical. The only difference being his iris was surrounded by pure darkness from his sclera. Then he looked over to his father's bloody dirt-brown eyes that gleamed red in the moonlight. Esmeralda's eyes quickly got watery until they could no longer hold the tear from sliding down her medium sandy skin. Marcellus didn't hesitate to caress her cheek to tenderly wipe it away. Esmeralda's voice stutters under the weight of their reality. "Thank you, Marcel." As their smiles slowly faded, in unison they looked up to the empty seat in front of them as if focusing on something that's unseen. After moments passed, a look of contentment covered their faces, looking at one another with a sense of purpose. With newfound confidence, Esmeralda spoke first. "Are you ready, lover?" "Right behind you, my love, as always." Marcellus replied without hesitation, with a grin of confidence and a look of certainty. Esmeralda made sure to tuck in their baby tight within the blanket, pushing a note in between the folds along with a magical black, emerald and ruby pattern beaded necklace. Activating her skill, bringing forth emerald light with her fingers that sprinkles over the child, dampening all noise other than her own for him to hear, and she begins to hum once more a lullaby. Marcellus used his hand to comb back his slightly straight curly hair that fell down to his shoulders. Then he kicked the door to the carriage wide open. Following through with a fluid motion, he dashed out, Don in his lavish attire. His clothes are lightly padded and armoured, a metal plate for his chest peering out from underneath his shirt, reflecting the moonlight that adds to his graceful entrance to the fresh night air of the forest, with one hand pulling out an energy pistol and the other donning his sword. A second later, several small explosions knocked down the approaching trees in front of the first carriage, forcing the horses to neigh excessively and immediately stopping their march. startling the driver, the mostly heavily armoured guard beside him, and passengers alike down to the carriages that followed. In the mix of the guards' and passengers' surprise, Marcellus' body pulsed with mana. Purple energy from within expanded out to coat his body in a very thin, transparent layer. Some of the energy drains into the handles of his weapons when they reach, causing the edge of the sword to start glowing a light purple, growing brighter with more energy that drained. Afterwards, Marcellus begins firing his energy pistol through the underbrush, a beam of light with each trigger pulled. The first shot that disappeared in the tree line elicited a cry of pain as hooded figures with black cloaks began rushing out with weapons of their own, most of which now glowing with reddish-orange energy. The mostly heavily armoured guards quickly hopped down and got out of the other two stylized green and red carriages, along with the passengers who had lavish, lightly armoured clothing as well. All was prepared for a fight. With skilled proficiency immediately, everyone coated their body with their mana, donning energy and kinetic weapons of their own, from pistols, rifles, swords, spears and more, just in time to meet their assailants. Just as quickly, they realized their fate. Their assailants continued coming, outnumbering them easily 1 to 15 within moments, as more approached like an endless wave, half of which coating their own body in the reddish-orange aura as well. The rest pressed a button on their belts to create a similar effect through their tech, yet no one wavered at this revelation. As shots began firing, Marcellus and his allies took a defensive position. One of the light-armoured allies hopped on top of the carriage, spreading their arms wide and activating their skill to establish a perimeter several feet away from them. It seemed to have no effect until a barrage from miniguns began unleashing against the ally forces. A shield appeared at the perimeter line to block high-velocity rounds with precision. A few of the assailants' arrows and other slower projectiles passed through without fail. Two allied shield wielders launched forward, activating their skills, combining their shield barriers. Arrows bouncing off, earth spears shattering, and fireballs exploding against the barrier. One shield wielder hopped on top of the carriage for added protection with a sphere barrier for their ally. As the melee assailants dawned closer, most of the projectiles ceased. The ground shook as several assailants tried bending the earth to take control of the land, a ringed barrier of spiked earth around the perimeter, as one of the lightly armoured allies kept them at bay with their own earth bending. As allies returned fire, the assailants showed no hesitation to step on and over each other as they rushed forward and were struck down. Marcellus continued firing his energy pistol until they were halfway towards them. Activating his skill, the colour of his gun changed into a reddish-orange energy. When he held down the trigger, his energy rounds turned into a liquid flamethrower. It showed a little effect against the assailant barriers, but did well to obscure their view and cover the ground. Once they were finally close enough, the shield barriers went down and weapons swung. One of the assailants had no disguise on. Her height slightly surpassed Marcellus's own. Large obsidian-coloured horns were a little forward on the side of her head, nearly as big as her head itself. Her hair was dark blood red with pure white strands. It was straight and thick, would have hung to her cheekbone if it wasn't combed back. Her skin was a silk pale white with black dots clustered around like full-body freckles. A long, thick tail that slowly thins out into a big blunt arrow tip. She wore little armour, yet thick and heavy like the spear she wielded, showing more skill than the others. She jumped high up into the air, spinning, creating a spiralling firewheel with her spear, before quickly diving towards Marcellus. Marcellus, coating his sword with fire, met the blow head-on, creating a wave of flames in all directions. As the fight began, most strikes were dodged, but every time they deflected each other's blows, sparks and miniature fireballs flew, covering the battlefield in flames, staying ablaze on the concrete or igniting the surrounding trees. A few assailants getting hit in the crossfire. As they collide once more, their weapons sparking and grinding against each other as they lean into it. Leaning her head even closer to speak, her face became less serious and more welcoming, smiling with excitement. As she spoke, small constant smoke trails left her mouth. Her voice was gentle and sincere. "Hello, Marcel. I mean father-in-law. Nothing personal, right? Character card, Shiragan Dynasty, Dragon Race, Chimera, age 100, 20 in human years, height 6'1", class Butcher, rank Awakened, title Prime Dragonborn, Executioner, DNA seed, Dragon Bloodline, internal love firebending, Volcano affinity, Psionic and Fire. Hello, Shiranir. Nice to see you again. I would be remiss to say it didn't feel a little personal. I also must remind you, I'm not your father-in-law. Marcellus decided to indulge her mannerisms as she continued mimicking his speech pattern and formal demeanor, as she always did. He responded gently and formally while they were struggling for dominance, their blades pushing back and forth between their faces. Shiranir feinted, heartbroken at his words, pushing free from their struggle, slashing at each other a few more times before colliding into their tug-of-war once more. Surely you must be trying to kill me with your tongue, since you cannot with your blade, father. Why must you deny our marriage? Don't you want a strong bloodline? I'll be fully mature just as he comes of age. I can raise him right with all the love he needs and deserves after I put you both to rest. I'm strong enough to protect him, unlike you, so just surrender so I can make it painless. Marcellus couldn't help but to let out a small chuckle. Shaking his head in dismissal and doubling his efforts, his blade glowing a deeper, fiery red. The ground cracked as he pushed the edge merely inches away from her neck that burned from the heat. You really want to have this conversation now? Despite all of this, you're still trying to earn our blessing? You still haven't changed at all, Shiranir. You chose your family, and we chose ours. With all your well-meaning desires, you're still under their heel. You can't even protect yourself. Even now you show you're still conflicted, using a spear. Should have brought your axe if you wanted to put us to rest. Shiranir's face drifted to one of sorrow and regret, before slowly turning back warm and welcoming once more, increasing her own strength to match, cracking the brick road beneath them more while pushing the blade away from her neck. You're about to die, father. If not now, then when? My axe would be so barbaric and overkill. How could I do that to my mother and father-in-law? How could I look him in the eyes if I did such a thing? He will be mine and you are my family, but I won't lose all of you. If I didn't side with them, then we would all be dead. I'm just trying to save what I can. Despite how serious Shiranir tried to maintain her voice, sorrow continued seeping through with each word said. Her grip tightened on the spear as she pushed more with her weight to him, doubling her efforts with a new wave of determination. Marcellus smiled warmly, the same smile she was all too familiar with that made her feel like everything would be okay. Using her momentum, Marcellus slid to the side and used the brief moment as Shiranir regained her balance to knee her in the gut and fired a blue energy round at her knee, concealing it in ice. Knowing what's coming next, Marcellus jumped back as she activated her skill, a small burst of concentrated heat that immediately shattered the ice and melted the bricks beneath her. Her knee was still dark blue from the lingering frostbite. Not missing a chance, Marcellus immediately lunged forward. Right before his sword met her neck, she deflected it to the side. Using the momentum, he spun around, firing 2 ice rounds to stall her counterstrike as she dodged before sword and spear collided once more in a tug-of-war. Oh, sweet Shirin, little Shishare, even though we do not agree with your path, we understand it. We only wish you had more faith in us. Me and Merelda, we bear no hatred towards you, and when I put you to rest, it will be without hatred. But it is possible I may die, and this might be the last time we ever speak. So I'll grant you my blessing, give you a proper middle name, and allow you to share our last. Because even though you're not worthy now, I know one day you will be. I will even allow you to keep Dragon as your birthday present if you so wish to. So Shiranir S, Soul, Dragonheart, my daughter. I hereby formally adopt you as my own, and if my son should accept you without manipulation, then you will have my blessing. Although you're not allowed to even seek him out until it's time. Now let's stop this talk and prove to me it's not a mistake. As Marcellus spoke, a single tear fell from Shiranir's cheek. Despite the differences, to finally be acknowledged as family by her father figure overwhelmed her burning heart with a bliss. Pushing free from the tug-of-war one last time as the battle raged on, every injury from minor and major alike, the Allied forces took was instantly recovered by their medic healing them with their skills. When there was enough flame scattered around, Marcellus pushed back from the fight briefly and activated his skill. A blue wave of aura covered the battlefield, extinguishing all flames and turned it into mist that only grew more dense by the second. Marcellus's sword was covered in ice. With each rapid swing, he launched an icy crescent moon towards Chironir, who had no choice but to slowly back away as each came faster than the last. Every crescent moon she didn't destroy was dodged or deflected, causing those behind her to be sliced clean through. In the mix of the increasing chaos, Esmeralda uses the signal of the mist and launches at full speed from inside the carriage, with such force the carriage tilts on its side. The lower half of her arms and legs now more resemble a jaguar, with emerald fur with black spots scattered in the shape of simplistic eyes. The fur going down to her now paws. Her ears are larger, more round and covered in fur as well. Her eyes held a more predatory gaze. Her long tail was the last to disappear behind the tree lines. Without a moment to waste, Marcellus activated another skill with a roar. The ground shucked, and vines appeared breaking through the brick road, wrapping around the three carriages before launching two into the crowd and one directly at Chironir. The force of the collision was enough to activate the pressure sensor bombs hidden within for massive explosions. The lingering vines grew thorns and swatted at the assailants. The explosion created the second signal. Marcellus followed behind Esmeralda, as well as all the others, friend and foe alike, and all without a word shared amongst them. With a blur to the normal eye, they all ran through the forest as fast as they could, all the while striking each other, dodging just as many trees and bushes as weapons. Colours of all kinds illuminating the darkness underneath dense tree coverage, with the smashing and sizzling sounds of energy weapons colliding against energy barriers, shields and flesh alike. The forest was all but silent. Random boulders destroyed just as many trees as stray energy rounds and fireballs ignited them. Strikes collided, slicing or crushing trees with a single blow as the chaotic battle raged on. Marcellus, his guards, and the other lavish adorned passengers focusing their attack on anyone who could run faster than them, doing all they could to buy time, all the while taking one injury after another. After what seemed like hours passed, it began to take its toll. Their medic was the first of the Allies to die, and so one by one they started to fall. 7 by 7, still so too did their enemy. Esmeralda never looked back, no matter how quiet it got. No matter how many rips and tears in her pants and shirt turn into many arrows and daggers piercing her body. She never slowed down and never stopped humming a sweet melody with a tight smile. Unlike the others, Esmeralda focused her energy on speed and protecting her child who slept soundlessly. She happily accepted any wound not immediately lethal, piercing into the minds of the assailants around her, causing the briefest of illusions that led them crash into trees and firing upon each other. As skilled as everyone was, regardless of how much stronger Esmeralda and her allies are, it wasn't about the bigger the explosion or the greater the power, not even the greater number. The only thing that mattered in a fight against masters was precision, endurance, and prediction. All it took was a single moment to decide the victor. Whoever had the truer shot endured longer and predicted better. The few assailants who managed to get close enough learned it firsthand. Her speed never slowed as she clawed out their eyes, throats, or limbs off, using each moment as another opportunity to trick and/or dismember the assailants. She was a confusing blur, becoming harder to pin down her exact movement the closer they got. As time pressed on, Esmeralda finally saw what she was looking for, their meeting point in the clearing. Not letting it distract from the danger, she continued dodging strikes from up close and afar, pressing forward till she finally jumped into the clearing, passing through an invisible barrier that began to light up as all of the closely followed assailants splattered into it like a brick wall, as well as their attacks bounced off. The ones that survived the full-speed collision started shaking off the sudden impact. The assailants started striking the barrier, this time intentionally, with tiny cracks already forming. A wave of exhaustion crashing over Esmeralda with her goal near. Her steps slowed faster than she attended, sending her crashing, sliding across the grass near the center. With a heavy breath, she began adjusting her eyes from the moonlight that was shining slightly brighter than normal directly into the clearing. Seeing a simple shrine, but a shrine no less directly in the middle. A sturdy 4-foot tree, with a big, thick wooden bowl resting firmly on top. A moat of water surrounding the stone platform in the middle. Once again, with the odds against you, you've made it. A familiar angelic voice to Esmeralda's ear, keeping her tight smile and slow hums flowing sweetly between her heavy breaths, slowly rising to her feet to meet the face of the familiar voice. The lack of energy softens her smile, allowing drools of blood to trickle down from the corners of her lips, eyes growing heavier by the second. Before meeting the familiar face, she suddenly turns left with wide eyes, her humming ceased just as quickly. Two dark figures were standing there motionless, cloaked in darkness that slowly flowed off like hair submerged in water. Following the gesture of one, she turns her head to the right. After a moment of focusing on something unseen, a look of contentment covered her face. Character cards. Is everything okay? A sound of concern growing on the familiar man's tone, looking in both directions to find nothing to explain her reaction. Esmeralda finally met his angelic gaze. An angel, form too hazy and bright for Esmeralda to see beyond the thin layer of shimmering light radiating off him due to her weakened, dying state. Only enough for her to not mistake who's before her. Esmeralda gulped down her mouth full of blood. Even while standing as tall as she could, she still needed to lean on the shrine so as not to fall, gently lowering her child down onto the offering platform, without a drop of blood or a speck of dirt on him. With a cheerful, certain tone, she spoke quietly and clearly. Everything is fine. Character card. Mikala. Appearance. Angel height, 5'8", Principalities, Marquess. Based on your condition, I will assume we proceed with the emergency plan. I will make sure he goes somewhere safe. Mikala spoke with a gentle grace, filled with all the sincerity he had. They each offered warm smiles as the angel placed his hands over the water. Esmeralda nodded weakly. The water begins shimmering with blue light as the baby's eyes open, taking in the full sight of the moon. I know, Esmeralda said confidently, slowly giving in to all her injuries and exhaustion, using the last of her magical energy to mimic her and Marcellus's voice. Emerald green light flowing towards their child and entering his head, an image of them appearing in his mind. He heard and felt all the love being poured into her words when she said, "We love you, Eyes," before collapsing back down onto the grass and unknowingly losing the connection before fully finishing his name. Soon glancing over to the tree line to see what's the commotion, only to find Marcellus entering the barrier barely clinging to life. Countless wounds from head to toe, impaled with arrows, daggers, swords, and other assorted weapons embedded into his flesh. Dark charred burns and a few holes you can see through. Missing his left eye and left arm, Marcellus was more red than any other color, crashing forward, sliding across the grass near the center. Without hesitating, he started to crawl. Esmeralda began doing the same, only stopping as they noticed the water in the shrine grew brighter before flashing of blue light. They watched the disappearing of their son along with the angel. After the moment of silence, each smiling to their eyes, which was filled with sorrow and love after some success from what they sought out to do. Esmeralda turns her gaze back to Marcellus. Seeing behind him half of the barrier is cracked, knowing it won't hold for much longer. Marcellus turned his gaze back to Esmeralda. Seeing two dark figures standing off to the side motionless, cloaked in darkness that slowly flowed off like hair submerged in water. Following the gesture of one, he turns his head to the right. After a moment of focusing on something unseen, a look of contentment covered his face. Slowly they crawled until their arms were wrapped around each other once more. Driving the weapons that pierced their bodies into each other just to embrace each other deeper, Esmeralda lying on top nuzzled into his neck, spoken through hush, panting glee. I told him. That's good, also. Chironir is now officially family, he replied. Esmeralda and Marcellus tightened their grip for one last embrace, feeling the other's breath growing more shallow by the second. Esmeralda's voice was soft, peaceful, and pleasant to the ear. Are you coming, lover? Right behind you, my love. Marcellus spoke with a similar peaceful, loving tone before they both whispered in unison. As always. As Esmeralda drew her last breath, it was shortly followed by Marcellus. The two dark figures glanced at each other before continuing watching. The barrier collapsed and the rest of the assailants rushed in. Chironir emerged from the forest and approached the bodies first. She was covered in light wounds from head to toe with charred flesh, frostbite with a few shattered chunks, and needles impaling her. Spiked vines still tightly embedded into her neck and limbs, with each step only serving to draw more blood and pumping more poison into her veins. Her skin was a deep purple around the affected areas. She told the other assailants to clear away from the body and destroy the shrine. Immediately a large fireball was launched. After getting closer, Chironir got down on one knee as she brought her head to their ears and one hand on top of Esmeralda's head, whispering for only their bodies and spirits to hear. May love like yours find me, and may you find each other in the afterlife. Rest in peace, Mother, Father, and just know I have no need for dragons when you have blessed me with a heart. Using the end of the spear, she rose back to her feet. A few assailants came closer to collect the bodies, thinking she was done checking for death traps like the others she proclaimed. But before they could, a horn signaled across the forest, making every assailant stop in their tracks before quickly fleeing the scene. One of the dark figures faded away, and the other took a step forward. Somewhere across the land, in front of a farmhouse with a church connected to the back, a half-asleep baby appeared in a flash of light. The next second, the door slowly opened to a young woman with flowy blonde hair to their jawline, fair skin and kind blue eyes you couldn't help but trust. With a slight southern accent, she spoke sweetly and concernedly. Character card, Sister Mary, appearance, Southern American, height 5'4", age 29. Class, Fate Wielder, rank chosen. Title, My Mother's Fateful Daughter. Bloodline, gardening, bending, nature, life and death. Affinity, earth and light. Oh dear, so you're the one I was expecting? I knew you would be young, but not newly born. Gracefully, she crouched down to gently scoop up the baby. When sensing something abnormal, she took a closer look by activating a skill. She frowned when she realized the source. By her mercy, you're missing your soul core. Just the surface is left. Just what happened to you? You poor thing. Don't worry, I'll take good care of you from now on, darling. She brought the child inside and continued examining him with care, seeing the tucked note and beaded necklace. Taking out the note, it revealed the child's full name, date of birth, and some additional information before instructions to burn it after reading. Nice to meet you, Isilric. Welcome to your new home. My name is Sister Mary, your second mommy. Elsewhere, in a place unknown, a woman sat in her chair next to a fireplace in her library. She was covered head to toe with a gentle-fitted dress that could only be described as simplistic royalty attire, with a hood that covered her head, with a dark blood-red mask that looked like it was frozen in motion, like clashing chaotic waves that reached the small devil horns on top of the mask, all serving to assure not one piece of her flesh was visible down to her gloved hands that had similar red design as her mask. Closing the book, her voice slightly softly echoed as if more than one person spoke at once while she did so gracefully. The end. That concludes the story Let Love Lie, the beautiful tale of Esmeralda and Marcellus that met their end, saving their child. A story of opposites, understanding, acceptance, and sacrifice. A story many may say was not a happy ending, but none can deny that it was filled with love and ended with it. Something, as you know, is quite rare in the world of Atsin, where every story has an end, and very few leave room for another to begin. The woman gently placed down the book right on the side table next to her red drink in her silver glass. Picking up the glass, she poured a little of the liquid onto her mask. The mask squirmed and quivered all over as the liquid was soaked into it before freezing in motion once again. Placing the glass down, she picked up another book and placed it on her lap before speaking once more. Lucky enough, Esmeralda and Marcellus managed to save their child, resulting in the beginning of a new story. And I must say it is one of my favorite stories. I always enjoy coming back to it to pass the time. A comfort story of mine, you can say. The title of this one is called The Intimate Overlook. A tale of the faithful and the faithless, of sorrow and despair, of love and friendship. An adventure around the world to find purpose and a sense of belonging. Sit with me once more on another journey where anything can happen. She caressed the cover of the book that had a silhouette of a man gazing upon the moon over the horizon. For those joining me for the first time, I will take this moment to explain some of the history of Atsin to help you better understand the world and all the systems known thus far beforehand. For those who already know or don't wish to hear it, feel free to skip ahead. To begin with, there is a blue star called Sirius that holds 6 planets within its pull. Atsin is the 4th planet from the Sun, and astronomers say it's on average 3 times larger than other similar habitable planets. From as far back as they can tell, Atsin always held a mystical nature to it, having mana within everything that helps you tap into that mystical side. They would soon call this system Way of the World. Those connected to the world were called in many things: witches, mages, and recently benders. Eventually they learned their mistake, realizing it was 2 systems and not one. The second one is named Way of the Creature. Way of the World is a system where you gain the ability to learn from the world and tap into its power, bending it to your will as you become a part of it. Very few were born with this ability, and fewer could survive the means of gaining it. For this system, you must start with the basics to gradually learn and adapt your body so it's capable of handling other advanced bendings. From the start, you are a novice with the study of waves. Nowadays, it takes approximately 3 months each to get a grasp of the basics. There are 4 different waves, and they are seismic, the waves that travel through land; aquatic, the waves that travel through water or liquids; sonic, the waves that travel through air; lastly, psionic, the waves that travel through realms, often seen as the spiritual and magical nature wave. Next is the basics, the study of bending. This is also where they get their modern term benders. Most benders stop at the basics to only help serve their modern living. The basics hold 4 more studies only, which 3 you can pick from. Each one takes about 8 months to gain the basics of. Trying to study more than you should leads to dire consequences, as well as studying more than one at a time. This is the study of solid, liquid, gas, and plasma, which primarily takes the form of electricity. After basic is intermediate, the study of control, with 4 more paths, only 2 of which can be chosen. Each one takes 4 years to grasp the basics of. These 4 are volcano, glacier, clouds, also known as shadows, and veil, also known as phasing. The intermediate is not so simple as choosing what you want to study. It's something you must know beforehand. Depending on which bending you decided may limit your options. For the study of veil, you must have sufficient control over your psionic waves. For the study of clouds, you must have gas and liquid bending. For the study of volcano, gas and solid bending. Lastly, glacier, solid and liquid bending. After intermediate is advanced with 3 options, but only 1 to choose from. Similar to intermediate, depending on what you choose may limit your options. Taking 6 years to grasp the basics of. These options are beast, requiring the study of shadows; nature, requiring the studies of both volcano and glacier. Lastly is spirits, requiring the study of phasing. After advance is master with 4 for options, and 2 of which they can be selected, each of which taking 10 years to grasp the basics of. These are life and death, space and gravity, mortal and spirit, lastly order and chaos. And that is the system of Way of the World. Next I will explain Way of the Creature. This one affects all living beings, granting them skills that need to be activated by thought or speech for the unfocused. The premise was quite simple. If you want to do something better, or at all, then keep doing it. Crave it even. If you want a skill to help you jump, then keep jumping. Want to jump, feel and think about what it means to jump. The more you do it, the stronger your desire, the more likely you'll gain the skill. Even a simple jumping skill could be unique to others. Even a cripple can gain the skill to stand with enough effort. Some played with fire so much and got burned by it just as often, they gained a skill to conjure the flames themselves. A skill used enough, while understanding it, has a chance to evolve into a trait, something that will become second nature. In the early years of the first calendar, in the early 1000s BA, before the arrival. Way of the creature undergoes its first mutation. This mutation had a chance to turn traits into bloodline traits. It's when you gain so much knowledge, efficiency, and use it so frequently, it begins to engrave into your DNA. Bloodline traits have a chance to be passed down to your offspring. This sparked a new era of selective breeding. The rise of dynasties returned slightly different. Countless dynasties were formed, large and small alike. Their purpose was selecting and preserving their bloodline. Most dynasties held multiple families within it under one banner, although some were held by only one family. Dynasties slowly took over once more, finding their way into the royal courts. Although most dynasties had groups of families and bloodlines working together to survive on the land, with each family taking on a different role according to their blood. In the early 2000s, BA, the planet shook for the first time. The cause is still unknown, but the side effect was. This caused the second mutation to happen. This mutation created mutants, those gaining bloodline traits seemingly at random, even being born with them. The mutants soon also went by those touched by fate. Some call this fate's mutation. Through studies, it was found mutants often gain bloodline traits they once do or will desire or need to survive. Some thought it was a blessing, while others thought it was a curse. Not all had a graceful appearance after they mutated. Even worse, many gained a bloodline that felt opposite their very personality. A nurse getting the ability to kill and torture with a single touch if they wanted to. This was also the rise of heroes and villains. Studies also say it may affect the affinities you have to the elements as well. The higher the affinity, the easier and more natural it feels controlling or manipulating the element. The elements being earth, air, water, fire, electricity, psionic, divine, demonic, light, shadows, and darkness. And that is the two systems Atsin began with. In the early 3000s that would change, 3079 to be exact. The year the planet shook for the second time more violently than the last. This event was so destructive and massive that collectively every Atsinian decided on resetting the calendar to mark the day where everything arrived. Portals appeared up with monsters and creatures pouring out. Rifts to the demon realm opened up, starting the endless war. Angels came down from heaven, even the appearance of a few gods. The veil to the spirit realm ripped and was for all to see. Vampires and werewolves came out of hiding to help defend the planet from the invaders, becoming crucial players in the survival of Atsin. The gods created a new system that would eventually be called Towers of Evolution. Dungeons begin appearing all around the world, holding just as many treasures as monsters. In the beginning, the gods deemed everybody worthy to connect with the system, with no limits for the survival of mankind. The more you killed monsters and demons, the stronger you became by leveling up and gaining points to distribute. The gods even issued quests, gaining rewards and more level points. With each level, you got 5 points to allocate. You could place it into strength, increasing your physical damage and how much you can carry. If you allow it to increase your muscle mass, you would gain an extra bonus to your natural strength. You could put it into defense, reducing your physical damage taken and increasing your overall density. Into vitality, increasing your overall health. Improving your body functions and natural resistances as well as prolong your dying state. Allowing you to cling to life a little longer for a last stand or until you can be healed. Then you have agility, increasing your reaction speed, flexibility, accuracy, balance, and overall proprioception, allowing you to better know where your body is within space. You also have intelligence, increasing your mental processing speed, memory, psionic abilities, shields, as well as further increasing resistances from mental attacks. Lastly, you have perception, increasing your overall senses, spirit efficiency, and magic. Magic is the broad term for all of your skills, traits, bendings, and mana efficiency. Once more, you have strength, defense, vitality, agility, intelligence, and perception. Levels are not the only thing that the new system brought. The towers, after the arrival and the start of the endless war, the population quickly began to drop by the billions. Nearly 27 billion dropped down to a little over 5 billion that is known. The demons took a permanent home to the east on the main continent. 8 known sanctuaries were built. Little to no communication between them outside of the main two sanctuaries that reside in the north and south of the main continent, each of which holds approximately 1 billion each. The sanctuaries are built with two giant rings around them, the outer wall and the inner wall. Within the outer wall, populated with farmers and forests, along with preserved wildlife. They tend to build more outwards. The inner walls are where the majority resides. They tend to build upwards. Through hundreds of years, they slowly built the sanctuaries. As humanity's survival looked more promising, the angels slowly left. The spirits slowly vanished inside as the veil was repaired. The werewolves migrated up north, while the vampires primarily stayed down south. Although they returned to hiding, they were no longer mere legends. A lot of the dungeons were destroyed. The few dungeons that survived are the ones sanctuaries were built around. The dungeons grew stronger as well and turned into towers. Portals remained popping up everywhere around the world. Due to the power surrounding the sanctuaries, much fewer showed up there. Most of the portals that do appear tend to be on the edges of the outer wall, inside and out, and closer to the center of the sanctuary where the tower resides. The ones that are more of a threat tend to be closer to the tower. Portals also went by the new name gates. Now they keep the monsters inside until the gate breaks and they pour out. As the gods left, they changed the system. Only those willing to enter the portals and fight the demon horde gained access. Every 10 levels you would need to enter the Tower of Evolution and defeat the boss. You could go up the tower to fight in a group, or you can go down the tower and progress alone. Upon gaining the system, you can choose a class from the basic selection that can be upgraded later on based on the individual. The starters are Fighter, Defender, Mage, or Healer. More might be provided as an option if conditions met. Over the millennia, the North and South gradually adopted different means of survival. The North prioritized connecting with the Earth, becoming benders and efficient skill wielders. The North helped train and work with the animals of the land who also were affected by the arrival. The ability to grow stronger and gain sentience, even evolving with humanoid forms. Due to the cooperation and close proximity, animal and human skills begin to merge. Human copying animals, animals copying each other, as well as humans. The North call this natural evolution, especially when crossbreeding began amongst everyone, blending bloodlines and creating chimeras. DNA of 2 or more species combined, although the humanoid animals prefer the term chimera as well to better separate from their unevolved counterparts. Sharing the term helped inspire unity, which was needed since the North primarily went up the tower to collect its riches and to grow stronger together. They say werewolves hide amongst them in plain sight, but you can never be sure since they could simply be a chimera. It's also where most dynasties reside. The South took a different approach, prioritizing technology over nature, blending magic and technology, taking a more cybernetic approach, focusing on harnessing their inherent mana, not trying to bend the world, but only to better control the mana itself, pouring it into technology and letting it create the desired effects. Mana will take the term battery, for it was one of the main source, if not only source, to power the technology. Also used for linking technology to you with your unique battery signature. Many often change their bodies with cybernetics to further enhance themselves. Along with cybernetics, drones and androids started becoming more common. Many people from the South grew to despise animals and nature, so they're often seen walking with drones or androids as companions. Especially as the South primarily goes down the tower, which doesn't allow you to bring anyone else. The act of most people going down the tower helps spread distrust and greed amongst everyone. Countless factions rising and falling every day, where the only freedom is within the territory you hold or at the mercy of the ruler of the territory you're in. Often find drones and androids running shops or patrolling territories. Few places don't allow them since they can get very crowded. It's normal for those who can afford it to bring the least one everywhere with them as a guard, especially when crime tends to be very high. Vampires are known to be around, but nobody knows where. Like the truth no one can prove, but everybody knows it's true. The levels and the tower form different rankings depending on how strong you are. The first rank is unawakened or primal if you're an animal, seen as level 0. The second rank is Sentient, level 1 to 10. When you reach level 1, you become aware of the world screen, helping you view things, receive messages, and quest from the world and the gods you worship. Those who are sentient are often seen as street-level threats. The third rank is Awakened, level 11 to 20. Reaching 11, you gain the ability to use your aura, the act of pushing your will outwards, often used to sense your surroundings or intimidating others by pouring feelings and power into your aura. Overwhelming power to even crush those too weak to bear it. Awakened people are often seen as city-level threats. The fourth rank is Chosen, level 21 to 30, gaining the opportunity to learn the basics of a master-level bending without needing to progress through Way of the World. This process leaves you vulnerable for 10 days. Those who are chosen are often seen as state-level threats. The fifth and last known rank is Divinity, level 31 to 40. You gain another opportunity to learn the basics of another master-level bending. Those who are divine are often seen as country-level threats. The first requirement to level up to the next rank is to defeat the boss. The second requirement is to get your mental and physical rank the same. Understanding one's self and enduring a lot of mental and physical damage causes them to level up. You can gain one rank above your current. For example, somebody who is awakened and has no desire to risk ranking up can still bring their mental and physical level to Chosen. Sentient level, mental and physical gain you nothing. Physical Awakened allows you to touch those whose traits would allow them to be unaffected by normal physical means. Mental Awaken allows you to sense others' intentions as well as sense spirits. Physical Chosen, gaining the ability to touch spiritual things. Mental Chosen, gaining the ability of clairvoyance. Seeing seconds in the future, or seeing with eyes unseen to capture different perspectives that expands to the far reaches. Seeing the future and unseen eyes cannot both be obtained by this method. Lastly, Physical Divinity. You gain an extra trait relating to the physical body from Fate. And Mental Divinity, gaining an extra trait related to the mind from Fate. Again, the known different ranks are Unawakened or Primal, Sentient, Awakened, Chosen, and Divine. Currently there are approximately 400 chosen in the world and only 10 divine. And with that should be the basics to help you understand the world of Atsin as they know it thus far. Now let us continue the legacy of the Hearts with their child Izuric from his point of view, and see what he will do in his life. The narrator slowly caressed the Book of Intimate Overlook one last time while gazing upon it, treating the book with love and care, caressing the sides and edges as she slowly opened the book to the first page.